this all came about because my grandma, who is now 100, has been begging me to send her porn.
We are here with stand-up comedian and just life enthusiast. I feel like we have a lot in common. Calise Hawkins, everybody. Welcome to the show.
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah. We have very similar passions. And I just remember that one time we hung out when you come over at my 34th Street apartment. And I was like, let's smoke.
Yeah,
and,
oh my God, I got so high off of that.
It was so fun.
What's it called, a volcano?
Yeah, I've since moved that to storage because I'm like, I feel like that's too stonery. I'm in my late 30s now. I don't want to be like rip-roaringly stoned. And I live with my boyfriend, so I'm like, that's just a me activity. Or a friend, a stoner friend.
It's a very solitude type thing. I've completely stopped smoking.
Yeah? How is it?
Yeah, it's great. I think I was using it to hide from feelings and, you know.
Yeah. It gives you a little bit of a buffer between you and the world, but like I like smoking at night because my mind does not stop, and when I smoke, it just allows me to just kind of chill, really.
Yeah, I was smoking it to fall asleep, for sure.
Yeah.
And now I just, I do breathing exercises, but I also listen to music. That helps a lot.
Yeah. Like binaural beats kind of stuff?
Masturbation.
Oh,
masturbation is honestly very helpful.
So helpful.
for
I just
sleeping.
pass out. Sometimes I don't even finish. I wake up and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I've woken up with my vibrator in my hand multiple times. And I'm like, oh, wow. I was too tired to fuck myself. So you had sent us over a list of topics, which I'm very excited to dive into. But it seems by the bullet points that you sent me, like you're such a good mom in terms of like nurturing your kids' independence, and but you talk about becoming an empty nester soon. So talk to me more about that.
Okay, well, you know what? Yesterday on Instagram, I saw this interesting thing. Okay, it was like this whole Nazi thing. Sorry, I know. I'm jumping in.
That's that. We, you know,
This is the world we live
Nazis.
in. Yeah, they're there.
But it was this lady. I wish I remembered her name. I wish I had pulled this up. But it's this lady who started this whole thing with sleep training.
Okay.
And it was in order to dumb down the population, to make them kind of like desensitized, to in order to like give them more direction. So the mothers disconnected from the babies and wouldn't answer their calls, wouldn't attend to their needs.
Sleep training is when you let the kid cry and you don't tend to
And
them,
it was
right?
invented by Nazis.
No way.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. In order to, not dumb down the population, but to make them more obedient, to make them less like emotional.
Okay.
To make them like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's hardening from a young age. Like you just have to deal with it. No one's going to come and comfort you.
Okay,
That's very interesting.
I read something recently about sleep training and how it was bad, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that, because I've heard a lot of young moms that I know talk about sleep training, and like no red flags came up. But then when I read that article, I'm like, yeah, it is traumatizing because it's a baby. The baby is helpless. And the baby wants to develop a sense of trust with the parent, and you're completely shattering that with sleep training.
And it doesn't get its needs met, and it expects that out of life.
Right.
Not getting its needs met, and its emotions don't matter, right?
You're raising a sheep.
So I was raising my kid 18 years ago as a baby. How am I saying this? And I wanted to do everything right. So sleep training was like the biggest thing on the menu. It's like, you got to sleep train, or else they're going to get too attached to you, and they're never going to be able to like live without you, and they're going to have some kind of weird attachment issues, right? But once I had a baby in my arms and it was crying, that idea, the feeling of it crying was excruciating for me. So I felt like such a bad mom because I never put her down. I never made her go to sleep. I always rocked her to bed. I would fall asleep with her in a baby Bjorn, like sitting straight up.
Yeah.
I would fall asleep with her next to me in the bed. I mean, that's
the opposite of
maybe
sleep
not as
training,
safe.
but
I did everything based off of how she felt. I wouldn't even shower. You know?
Yeah.
Because if she wasn't okay, she was also very colicky. Like I always had to hold her. I always had to rub her back. She was always like cranky and like gassy. So I never sleep trained, and I always thought like, oh no, I'm messing her up. But then pre-K 3 comes along. I take her to pre-K 3. I was so nervous to leave her. I thought she's going to be really attached to me. I'm Mimi. That's what she called me.
Yeah.
And then she goes in the door and she runs in, and all the kids are clinging to their parents, crying, screaming. They won't go in. She runs in and she's ready to meet everybody. And I was like, wow.
Because she had a safe base, a safe foundation.
So. I don't think, I was like, okay, I don't think, and I try to tell everybody, I was like, I don't think that sleep training thing is a real thing.
Yeah.
You don't feel it. you don't feel it. It hurts so bad when they cry.
I visited one of my close friends has a baby who is about a month old now, and I was with her and getting to hold, like, a baby is a magical being. It is ethereal. It's visceral. Like, and you know, there was moments where she went for a walk with my other friend, and she was like, "Can I leave the baby with you?" I'm like, "Yes, please." This week I want a baby. Every week I change my mind. But I got to be with her, and she was crying, and I got to like figure out the movements that were comfortable to her, and she just wanted to be by your heartbeat. So like she kept leaning her head into my chest, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like it was so precious. But that's so interesting. I think there's a lot of industries that prey on a young mother, first-time mother's lack of knowledge, because my friend was telling me they just give you the baby, and I had to ask, like, how do you swaddle? They had a lactation consultant. That was all she got taught from the hospital. And they're like, she's like, it's crazy. They just give you this baby and okay, see ya.
I know. Yeah, it's very scary. I was very terrified that I'm still scared, you know, 18 years later. But as long as she was dependent on me physically, I was terrified that I was going to hurt her. I remember one time she had her at this little gym, and there was a baby party going on. So I was holding the juicy juice, and I was holding her, and then she started turning pink, and then she started fretting, and then I put her down, and she was just cranky, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then I realized she was choking.
Oh, fuck.
And so I took her to my friend Ilse, who was one of the teachers there, and I just handed her to her. She's choking, please help me. She called over a firefighter. He dumped her over, and when they hit their back, it's terrifying. It's
really?
They hit them so hard. She coughed it up. Yeah, it's necessary.
But it's necessary, yeah.
She coughed it up, and then I scooped it. I saw it in her mouth. I scooped it out, and I was like, oh my God. And then I left her with her babysitter for 3 days. I was like, I can't hold her. I can't touch her. I almost let her die.
Wow.
What was she choking on?
It was like the little plastic part. They had separated it for every kid, and then a little plastic part of the juicy juice. The cover of the straw.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was lodged in her throat. Fuck.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there was an instance my mom told me when I was a baby that I was choking on something, and she was like, "What the fuck?" And then she took me. She's like ran out into the cul-de-sac and was screaming, "My baby is choking! Like somebody help!" And the neighbor, I don't think this was what he was supposed to do, but he stuck his finger down my throat. But it released because it was liquid. I think that was choking on, and she was I mean, it's having a baby. Holding a baby freaks me out because I'm like, you are so delicate, and your head, like you can't touch parts of their head, and so it doesn't get less scary as they get older.
And then sometimes there's like a would you rather how you save them. Yeah. Like I remember one time, so my landlord, when she was a really small baby, when she was a newborn baby, my landlord was horrible. So somebody put like a burning envelope into my stairwell. And it's one of those apartments where you can only get up through the stairwell. There is no other area. You go straight up to your apartment. So I started smelling the smoke. The stairs started getting on fire. And so I'm like leaning my kid out the window because smoke is filling my apartment. I'm leaning the kid out the window and I'm yelling help. And this guy comes by and he's like, throw me the baby. And I'm like,
what are you, Michael Jackson?
Throw me the baby.
I don't know, man.
I'm like,
men are always so confident they're going to catch something.
Yeah.
Really confident about that.
It's not a football.
And so I just leaned her out the window and I was like, no. Would you rather your baby die of smoke inhalation or that guy just run away? Because it occurred to me, I was like, what if he started the fire?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think you made the right choice there.
I ended up calling the fire department, they ran in. And so this is another thing. So before her, I was a huge vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian again. Well, pescatarian now because I'm trying to be safe, whatever. But I was a huge vegetarian. I cared about all living things. And then when I had her, we had mice. And she started getting like bumps, and I didn't know if it was fleas or it turns out she had eczema, but I didn't know if it was the mice.
Yeah.
So that changed something in my heart. It hardened my heart, and I started putting glue traps to catch all the mice.
Because your mama there now.
I got kind of evil about it too. Like so I would leave like a baby mouse on there. I'm like, call to your family. Because I didn't want it to hurt my baby.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you're saying this. I do have a theory that when people start having their own children, they care less about the outside world and more about their family unit.
It changed me.
Yeah.
And so the firefighters came and they busted the downstairs door. They busted into my apartment and then they stepped on all the glue traps. Because I had the whole bedroom lined with glue traps for the mice.
It's just like the cut off head in a Game of Thrones episode. Like, this is an example.
Their boots just were full of glue traps.
Damn.
I forgot to move them. I was too busy trying to save my kid.
They really do traipse in when you call the firefighters. They traipse in. Their outfits are very big.
They're very muddy, the boots.
And you're like, you know, you're making things worse. Unless it's like a fire where the whole place is going to get taken down. Like, they're just knocking pictures off walls.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot.
It's always interesting when new parents describe your complete change in priority once you have a kid. And like watching my brother become a father was a moment I'll never forget, because I was in the hospital and I heard him say, "That's my son," for the first time. And I watched him, his priorities, all he cares about. And my nephew's 8 or 9, and he's like, I only care about him. Like, whatever, like, mom and dad can do whatever, as long as they don't hurt him, nothing matters. I'm like, wow, and he, you know, to see a man get that way, I'm like, wow, that's very impressive. Like, the power of having a child is big.
It's big, and everybody thought I was going to quit and drop out of comedy and move home. I didn't have a home to move home to. Like,
okay, yeah.
You know, I don't have a relationship with my family that's like that.
Yeah.
But also, there's sublimation. It is big. It is powerful.
Yeah.
And so in order to know that I'm raising my kid right, I had to go harder. You know what I mean? Like, I had to make sure that I was doing the right things in comedy. I had to make sure that I was showing up. It actually worked the opposite way. I wasn't.
That's beautiful.
I didn't get to leave her very often. I didn't want to leave her very often, but I had to make sure that I was doing the right specific things that I was staying in comedy for. Like 8.5 months into pregnancy, I flew out to stand up for diversity, NBC, and
the competition.
And if I hadn't done that at that time, I wouldn't be here.
Wow, really?
Because they kept me involved. They kept me going on auditions. Nice. I auditioned for SNL with my baby on a blanket. It's got to be the worst. I'm pretty sure they lost it. It's got to be the worst audition.
Send us the tapes.
Because I didn't even want anybody holding my baby while I was in the room.
Wow. Yeah.
Were you doing like impressions or like?
I tried to do something. I don't even remember. I know it was bad. I know I kept looking down at my baby, and she was like, "Just go." And I have this thing where I can't like do stuff out of camera. I don't. It's not real to me.
Yeah, you need the audience. So you're stand up. Yeah. We need and I've heard when you audition for SNL, like there's maybe 3 people in the room, and then a lot of people are watching from a camera or something. Like,
really? Yeah, oh, that's not good. There was just this one lady, and I had my baby blanket and my baby on the floor.
Oh my gosh!
But all the hope kept me in it.
I was asking my friend yesterday, and I'm curious, or over the weekend, I'm curious what your thoughts are. I was asking her, like, she was explaining to me that it's something I've heard explained by parents a lot, my brother included, of like, this type of love you feel towards your kid is more powerful than any type of love. And I was like, even more powerful than romantic, like the most powerful romantic love you could have ever experienced. And she was like, hands down.
Yeah, and that's a sign. That's the truth, and that's a sign. If you ever feel more romantically towards somebody else than your daughter, something's wrong. Oh, okay. And something's probably, I hate to like blame people, but he's probably doing something that's making you cut your feelings off of your child.
Well, wow. I was going to say, I love my dog more than anyone I've ever dated easily. And I don't find that offensive. And it doesn't mean that I don't like the boyfriends. I'm just like, yeah, my dog is first. So to me, that sounds normal.
It's just cool that like there's something more powerful than romantic love out there, or like love, like that type of love just seems, based off everybody I've talked to, the most powerful love on the market.
Yeah. I always used to describe it as like having your heart outside of your body.
Yeah.
It's a terrifying kind of love.
That's so scary.
It is. It's terrifying.
Yeah. And so your daughter is going to college?
Yes. She wants to live on campus. We're not sure we can swing it yet, but that's okay because as a Midwestern girl who figured out how to live here and survive here, I'm very happy that if she can live with me, we're still like kind of cheating the system.
Yeah, sure.
So if I can get her into on campus, I want to, because, you know, I've been the only one nagging at her this whole time, and I've been the only one who's a big influence on her, and I really want her to have outside influences. Yeah. And I really want her to integrate what's going on with other people, with what was going on with me. Like when she said, I was surprised actually. She was like, I want to live on campus, and then it like hit me so quickly. I was like, yeah, I've been a lot.
Yeah. But also, I just think it's like that's
too.
what makes it different from high school. Like college, like I feel like it's like the experience. Part of the most important part of college is living on campus. I think, and deciding like, you know, how to create a home with other people who are also your age and just kind of like winging it. I learned so much just about life and myself in college.
I think that's the biggest experience of independence you will ever have in your life is the day you move out from your parents' place.
I think it's the most important thing about becoming an adult. It doesn't even seem to be much about getting a job anymore. It's more like practicing being an adult.
Exactly.
And knowing who you are. Yeah. How has it been raising a teenager?
Great. She's great.
Yeah.
She's great. She's like, I don't know. I got really blessed. She feels like, it's going to sound wrong. Everything still sounds wrong when you talk about, as a mother. Because I remember all the shaming that like a Lindsay Lohan had with her mom. And it's like, oh, they're like sisters. But you know what? When I'm in a restaurant and somebody goes, is this your sister? I'm like, I love that when they think I'm her sister and I take her to the doctor and they think I'm her sister. I love that.
Great. Yeah.
But I feel like she's my better mom.
Really?
I don't know.
Is she a very wise kid?
I don't know. It's not that. It's more like the love.
Yeah.
The support, the compassion. She's made me a better daughter because of the way she's patient with me, the way I watch her deal with me when I'm in a bad mood. I go, okay, I'll try that with my mom. And so I don't mean like she's actually the mature one in our relationship. I don't mean like she's like taking on adult responsibilities because she's definitely not. She's definitely very young for her age. I mean, like the love. Mm-hmm. She's retraining me on what love is supposed to feel like.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And so my mom never gave me that, you know? And so I guess I said it wrong. She's not like my mom, but she's so much like my actual mom that it's hard to, I don't think of her, I actually always call her my little sister because she reminds me of my little sister, you know, because me and my little sister, I basically raised my little sister because my mom was always out doing police work. Yeah. And so sometimes when I'm home with my kid, I feel like I'm home with my little sister. My mom just hasn't come back to feed us yet. But
that's cute.
But so she doesn't, but she's like my mom. Like she says stuff that my mom would say that she never was around my mom. I don't know where she got it from.
Yeah, nature.
So that's the kind of thing I'm like, where? And she's an artist like my mom. She wants to draw like my mom. And, you know, she watches all these police things like my mom. I'm like,
oh, that's so fascinating.
I know. I'm like, how are you so much like her, but you're so loving and compassionate and caring and patient?
Wow.
So she's giving me all that back that I never had as a kid.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Also, kids, like, there's something too with like girls that are just, they have this like, their heart is pure and beautiful and wonderful. Not every girl, and a lot of boys too. But like, has your daughter the love that she has shown and that's taught you about life more? Has your relationship with your mom altered or evolved?
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better.
That's nice
because I see her being patient with me, and I guess so if people knew us, they would say that I've had those moments with her. But I think, because she's had those moments with me, I've had to reverse engineer my emotional reactions.
That's nice.
You know,
as somebody
mean?
with a tough mom, I'm like, oh, that sounds really nice and like healing.
Yeah, it has been, and I wouldn't want to have to put all of it on her, but I mean, this is what she got. I mean, I didn't know what else to do.
She's teaching you these things.
She has. I mean, she's a really good kid. She's a really good person. So yeah, I've had to learn how to be a better person and a better mom to rise to the occasion of what she's been giving me as an innocent soul.
Yeah.
But I mean, don't you think she's a good person in part because of you? I mean, you raised her.
I guess so.
And you're very loving.
I guess so. And so, you know, when you say that makes me go like, my mom must be also a very good person. It's just like emotionally, she's not very, I don't know.
Didn't give you what exactly what you needed, which a lot of
she's very harsh.
Don't. Yeah. That's a tough attitude to grow up in if you are sensitive.
Yeah.
I think it works for some kids and then it just doesn't work for others. It's
like even
siblings.
My last visit, she was like, you're too sensitive. After she did something to me, she goes, and it's hurting you more than everybody around you. So you should really, it's like, no,
Thanks,
I don't
Ma.
think I realize like I've studied a lot of narcissism and I get it now. She's reacting. She thinks I'm the personality that reacts to her toxicity versus you haven't given me a peaceful place to just be myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not being too sensitive. It's just been 4 days of this shit, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, too. And you're also like a very loving person. And I feel like people like that. I'm thinking of both of our moms. Like they're like, that makes them feel uncomfortable.
Oh, she
because
hates
they have to look at a side of humanity that it gives them the ick almost.
But I got her hugging. I got her saying I love you at the end of phone calls.
Oh, that's great. Okay. She's softening. But I imagine
she's strengthening her mask, if nothing else. But no, I do see a little bit. Yeah, there's stuff in there. And, you look at your parent, and especially when you get to a certain age. I'll be 45 at the end of this month, right?
Yeah.
So you look at them, you go, oh, what happened to you? Oh, man, what happened to you?
Got hard. Well, parents always say, my mom's always said this to me, and I wonder if your mom said this and how it turned out. She always says when she's treating me, good and bad, you're going to understand this when you have kids. Like, even when she was being pretty emotionally abusive, you'll understand when you have kids. You'll understand when you have kids. And my brother said, like, Mom and Dad always said to us, you'll understand when you have kids. And I do. I get it. I just, don't want to be so, so on my kid like they were with us. But did your mom say that to you? Like, you'll understand my ways?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But the thing is, psychology has advanced. Yeah. So now I understand what you were doing wrong more than I'm not.
Than she does.
But I do see the impulses, and I don't know if this is the best way to raise a kid either. I don't ever want her to feel the way I have felt about my mom towards me. So when I feel myself having one of those reactions towards her, I take a moment by myself. She's in her room, and I come back and I go, I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. Nobody should ever speak to you that way. And I'm going to work on it. Oh my God.
I'm like, oh, that would have been so nice to hear.
I know, but I make a lot of mistakes. Look, she's calling right now because that's what happens with her.
You guys are really
let her
connected.
know. Yeah, she'll be upset if I don't. This thing is like, it makes it really weird because, back in the day, we couldn't get in touch with our parents like that.
Right.
And so if she doesn't hear back from me, she gets so worried.
Oh.
She gets so worried.
Do you need to answer that really quick?
Fell, or?
I'll answer it real quick. Oh. I'll put her on speakerphone. You're on speakerphone on a podcast, okay?
Oh, my bad. You in a podcast.
I just wanted to make sure I answered so I'm okay. So, all right?
Yes, of course. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi.
It's Corinne and Krystyna from Guys We Fucked. She's 18 now. She's an adult.
Oh, we got 15-year-olds listening.
All right, have fun. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Oh. That's beautiful. I love the way you mother. I feel like I get healed from hearing how you talk to your daughter. That's really cool. And I think that like I always try to really, I'm in this era of my life where with the mom stuff where I'm like, I really try to consider what my mom was up against. Yeah. And that was way worse than what I was up against. It just was. Her mom was stricter with her than she was with me. And society.
I was going to say that because that's what I've been telling people on stage.
Women couldn't do shit when she was a little girl.
They were told that they were nothing and that they'll never be anything. And they had all the proof, right? So my mom was the first black female police officer in our city.
Shit.
First black female sergeant, then lieutenant, and then internal affairs. So I go, that's where your narcissism comes from. You have no balance. If everybody's telling you you're not good enough to do something and you're the first doing it, you gotta say you're the best at everything except for being a mom.
And it makes sense. It makes sense and allows you to have the level of compassion that you didn't have earlier, and it just reframes everything. A reframing it's vital for growth.
The first step, though, to mending our relationship was her move. When I was pregnant with my kid, she came for the delivery. And my best friend Sarah from 6th grade, she passed out. When I got the epidural, she passed out.
That's hilarious.
I wasn't going to allow my mom to be in the delivery room because I didn't want that entity in there.
Yeah.
But then I needed someone, and she rose to the occasion, and she was just kind, and she was sweet, and she held the baby for me. And I was like, take pictures. I want to make sure it's my baby that I take home, right?
Yeah.
And then...
Honestly, great, valid concern.
Yes.
Because a lot of babies look the same, yeah.
And then she was in this huge court case for racial discrimination with I don't know, maybe 12 other cops. You can look it up. Internal Affairs Investigator, Lieutenant Joy, whatever. She was in this huge court case. And I was so scared. And she stayed. and she missed the ending of her court case.
Wow.
And they were able to swipe it underneath her and make a deal behind her back and take the money.
Oh, no.
Which caused her to go, I'm oversharing.
Well, no, but
it's all in there, though.
But she was there for you.
It's all in the news. It caused her to go into early retirement, and she was a little bit sad about it. But she had an interview about it. But it was like the first time I was like, wow. She's a mom.
Yeah.
She chose me over like the most defining moment of her career.
Wow. And I can't imagine being a female in the police as a police officer and then being a black female. Like, holy shit. Those are two uphill battles that never go away.
But my mom thinks of me as much weaker than these. Like, look at me. I keep almost crying. I'm stuttering through this whole thing.
I mean, you had me crying when you were telling me how you talk to your daughter. I'm like,
well, and also, I mean, I'm sure she had to, shut off a part of herself to survive being a black female police officer. I mean, I think to survive nowadays, even as like a white male police officer, we see people having to shut off an emotional part of themselves, which is why police officers react in the way they do, where they're not policing with any sort of empathy. They're grabbing for the gun immediately.
Yeah. I used to ask her, like, what is it like to see a dead body? And she's like, oh, it's nothing. It's just a shell of a person. And this was I was 13. I was like, okay. And I could sleep easy. And then I got older and I met death and I was just like, it's a shell. That was a person in there. Isn't that devastating?
That's terrible.
But my mom also, I think about her psyche a lot. Her firstborn child, Rose Ellen, was strangled in the umbilical cords and she didn't make it, right?
Oh my God.
So then she had my brother and then she was having me and I was being strangled in the umbilical cords.
Oh my God.
So she had my brother natural and then I had to be cut out and like revived.
Wow.
So
that must have been terrifying for her.
I still didn't put it together until I have 4 cats, right? One of my cats passed. I don't talk about it because
yeah.
And
tough.
when I found it under the bed, I touched it and it was like stiff and I was really upset. And I started emotionally distancing myself from the other cats. I couldn't touch them. I couldn't love them. I couldn't be near them. I started to hate them.
Yeah.
Because I had never been through that kind of loss. Like my grandma's 102. I've never been through that kind of loss.
Yeah.
And then I finally started coming back around and realizing they need me. And I'm still working my way back to being as close as I was to them before. And I go, that's what happened to her without psychology, without any kind of support system. She had a child who passed, who she wouldn't even visit the grave. And then her next child scared her in that same way. And she didn't have the equipment to come back from that for me. And she just was cold to me my whole life.
Yeah. The more I kind of gain understanding naturally about my parents' circumstances, the more I go, they could have been a lot worse, honestly.
Yeah.
They could have done way worse shit than what they actually did.
So that was the phrase my mom used. I did the best I knew how to.
And she's right.
Every time she'd always say, I always did the best I knew how to. And now that I'm going to be this age and I've experienced enough of life, I go, that's true. Because I go back and I visit her and I go, she still don't know how to do that much. And she's trying. She really is trying.
If she didn't know better, she would do better. Like that's all of us.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Because she wants to get it right.
Yeah.
And she just has these old-fashioned beliefs, Yeah. So she's trying to get it right old-fashioned wise,
Yeah. That makes all the sense in the world.
I mean, at least she's trying. I think some people kind of just stop trying at a certain point. So that's something.
Yeah. No, it is. It really is. Yeah.
It's hard. You're like, oh, okay. Well, I guess this is what we're going to get. In this lifetime.
You talked about the difficulty in being an independent thinker, which I think too, like I really relate to your sensitivity because I feel it too. And I feel like I try to, who was I talking to that was said to me, you have to, it was in my Patreon therapy. You have to work hard to stay soft. Because I don't want to harden, and I feel myself harden all the time, and I feel like there's when you had to do that as a kid to survive, like it's almost like a knee-jerk thing, so you have to like retrain your brain. But being an independent thinker, I think too, is also tough. I would imagine when you're sensitive and you could feel people's feelings even if they aren't saying them, and it's like, so how has that been? Like, how has that evolved for you trying to be an independent thinker?
Well, that's why I was drinking for the most of this career and smoking for the most of this career, sleeping as much as I possibly could during the day.
Yeah.
lot of porn. I stopped watching porn, which is crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
I know. I liked porn for a while, but then I realized it's even trying to be manipulative.
Yes.
The kinds of ideas it's trying to put in your head are really unhealthy.
Yeah. And when you masturbate to your imagination, you're like, oh, this is more enjoyable. It is enjoyable.
Yeah, it is.
You got to try harder, but it's enjoyable.
But and I think I've always been in a relationship. This is the longest that I've been outside of a relationship, 2 years, and I've only been on a date with 2 different guys. Like one guy 1 year later, and then a year later, this last guy that didn't work out very quickly.
Yeah.
So that's helped me think for myself. I am kind of a very isolated Midwestern, probably on the spectrum black girl who nobody realized that was what was going on with me. And because my mom's a cop, she was like, everything's dangerous, everything's scary. So we stayed home a lot, and I stayed away from a lot of people because I don't really mesh with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I had a tight-knit group of friends, Nyambi, Portia, Lexi, Crystal, and then a handful of male friends outside of my, honors program classes full of white kids because they didn't let many of the black kids in. And I was very isolated. So I always depended on a stronger person's ideology than mine as my anchor for reality. Because back in our day even, everything was your crazy, and that would rule you out of everything. If anybody found out you were different at all, if you thought differently at all, you were crazy and done.
Yep.
You couldn't. They wouldn't let you work.
People were looking.
You couldn't be their friend. You couldn't be on a sport. Yeah. And so everything that was neurodivergent was just mental illness to people.
Yeah.
And so I was in hiding. So I always needed a really strong, somebody who was very what is it? What's the other one?
Neurotypical?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody who was very anchored into this society to help guide me and hold my hand and explain things to me. And why were people reacting to me this way? Why were people so mean? They're gonna cry.
Well, it's people. Oh, dude, people being mean makes me makes me cry a lot. Yeah. I'm like, why would you do that? But then I'm real quick to fire back in a way that I'm like, now I'm becoming you, but worse.
Exactly.
But people are mean because when you take it a step further, people are being mean because there's something missing within themselves. So then you can cry again about that.
That's where I'm at now.
Very sad. That is very sad.
It is sad when someone's being mean, especially now that we're really full into adulthood. I just feel sad for them.
Yeah.
We talk about crazy. I mean, obviously, there's a good number of people who think I'm crazy for running as mayor of New York City, and I feel bad for them. The male comics who are 45 making fun of me for running for mayor, I feel bad for them.
Yeah, there's two.
I feel bad that you lack the courage to do what you really want to do. That makes me sad.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And
You're
people don't want to
such
see that.
an inspiration to me that you're doing that. Everything you guys have ever done, and I've told you this after you came after me, and then I started following you because everything you've ever done has been what I wish I could feel and do and feel for myself. Like the fact that you're putting yourself out there for that's going to reverberate with me for years until I figure out what my thing is later. Yeah. Because what I found out on our first podcast, I kept talking about how I wanted to be sexier. I wanted to be more, myself.
Lean into your
womanhood. I wanted to. And she challenged me on that. And she was like, well, why aren't you just doing it? And I just finally am doing it, and that's what my birthday show is going to be about. I'm going to do a little bit of burlesque.
You're doing burlesque.
I read about
that.
I love that.
So exciting.
Yeah. I'm going to make my little burlesque entry, and then I'll decide if I'll put my coat back on and do my little set.
Yeah.
And then we got Roy Wood Jr., we got Marina Franklin, we got Dina Hashem, we got Ashley Austin Morris
That's
Joy.
An insane lineup.
That's really good.
My friend Max Antonucci, Doug, I want to get everybody's name out. And Audrey Mora, Doug Urim, and Omar Thompson. So,
Yay.
And then I'm going to have a professional burlesque dancer. Her name is Adagio Burlesque.
Ooh, amazing. Are you the type of person that I love going to strip clubs and I love burlesque shows because I love taking in women that lead with their femininity and lead with how powerful and sexy they are. Because I want that. I'm starting to step into that for myself, but I need to see other women do it, and I need to witness the power of it to light a fire under my ass.
So here's the thing. I liked strip clubs for the horniness of it all because I was raised in the church and I was raised to not ever do anything that's inappropriate or to feel bad about it if you did, right? Mm-hmm. And what I've realized over the last year is that I like it for me because I want it to be more free.
Yeah.
And so, like, when we talk about masturbation using your imagination, I actually pictured myself in my thrift store dress. It's very retro. It's like blue and pretty. It's it's on my merch for my 40 AF album. And I was in the woods and I was just looking at the moon and I was masturbating with my dress open instead of anybody else being involved. And I think that's what it does for me. It's like I finally have reached a point where I'm like, oh, it's me I want to be into. I want to love me and I want to be sexy for me.
Yes.
Like, not just for somebody looking at me.
Yes.
And I thought these women were so powerful because they were doing that. And I thought that was so sexy.
Yeah.
And it honestly made me very horny for them because I was like, you don't give a fuck. I love that. I love that about them. And so I'm trying to like figure out how that is me, in what way that's me.
Yeah, how that shows up and how you feel comfortable expressing that in yourself.
Yeah.
100%. I always say I wish there was a night at a strip club for like first timers where we could put like some type of mask on, like equivalent of like a bag over, because I would love to feel what it feels like to try to find that power in myself.
You got to see my Amazon catalog. I got masks for the people. I'm going to make them wear masks for my first part, and then I'm going to make them take it off for a comedy. I'm like, I don't want to see your face. That's not about you.
Good, yeah.
Little party masks.
That's
like,
amazing.
Like Squid Games.
That's beautiful. So what brought on this I'm going to do this for myself. Like I'm going to.
Well, I wanted to, like, I don't remember how many years ago we did this podcast, but I started taking
You were at my
sexy
apartment,
pictures.
right?
Yeah, she was. I remember sitting on the couch next to Calise. Yeah.
I started taking sexy pictures then because I felt like everybody was always shaming me, telling me not to expose myself. And when I first entered into comedy, people were like, oh, you're a whore. They were making rumors about me having like threesomes with everybody. And I was like, I wasn't even that promiscuous yet.
Yeah. I'm like, if you guys only knew.
And so I don't know. It's just I'm not exactly what I want out of it, but I'm not exactly sure. It's just I need something out of it. Okay, so I'm using this as a bit at the end of my act for this show, but I'll spoil it for just this podcast. It's that I'm really into church. I'm really into the Bible. I'm really into the story of Adam and Eve and story in God's interaction with humans. And I was thinking about this whole shaming thing. This all came about because my grandma, who is now 100, has been begging me to send her porn. And my mom was like, they're going to send you to a mental facility because your grandma is an ordained minister and nobody's going to believe you. So it shut me down for 3 years. I was like, I'm not doing it. And I started thinking of my grandma as evil, right?
Oh,
I know. I like that's how much of a hold
you were trained to think.
That's how much of a hold my mom has over me that I was like, my grandma was trying to get me locked up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I finally, I got out of the relationship I was in and I started thinking about myself and thinking about my restrictions and thinking about the Bible. And the Garden of Eden was nude. That was all nudity.
It was a sexy place.
That's what God wanted.
Yeah.
Right? And
It's free, yeah.
And then the devil comes along and gets jealous. And it's like, I don't think that God should be looking at all these titties all the damn time.
The devil is religion.
He goes up to Eve and he's like, look at you, you're nasty. Don't you realize you're naked? So Eve covers up. And then God comes back and is like, Adam, Eve, where are those big, beautiful titties I gave you, bitch? And she's like, I covered them up. And he's like, get out. You don't get it.
Yeah.
Get out. And then ever since then, we've been shaming nudity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whose side are we on?
Yeah.
The devils, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched Wicked and I was like, they fucking role reverse just like in Wicked.
Yeah.
The devil is pretending to be God, but the devil is just jealous, narcissistic, don't care about anybody else, don't worship anybody else. But in the beginning, God's created the heavens.
Yeah.
So what happened to all that language?
Yeah.
This is the devil's domain, and we are falling for all the tricks.
I like that.
Everything's backwards. Everything's reversed.
If you started a church, I would join it.
I know.
I really would. I'm serious because I think religion can be so beautiful and freeing. And one thing I loved about my upbringing was that I had no religious influence. My parents were just too busy. They weren't involved in it. And so I got to observe everybody's religion, and I mostly was observing how constraining it was. I'm like, why do you guys do this? Mm-hmm. It's not fun. It's boring. Going to a Catholic mass, like, the sermon is boring. I'm like, you have such an opportunity to, especially when you go to church and it's an enjoyable experience and it's motivating. You're like, what a missed opportunity to inspire people.
It's Nazi-like. They try to get you in there for 4 hours, boring you to death, to train you that this is life.
Yeah. Boring you into submission. Boring you into thinking that this is all there is. Yeah. I mean, I was very young. I used to go to church when I was younger. It was like a Methodist church, but like pretty tame, like middle of the road Christian, you know, like fine with like gay people and stuff like that. And but I mean, I would listen to the sermons and I'm like, I'm 12 and I'm like, this is just this person's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, this is just this guy's opinion. So, you know, and I you could tell how the person would get most excited, not when they were preaching the word of the Lord, but when they got to do their own monologue. And when I was 12 sitting there
just
like...
a me show.
Yeah, this guy just wanted to tell us his thoughts for an hour. And I'm like looking around at the adults like, I hope they're catching on because this is, you know, I would constantly feel unsafe around other adults because I'm just like, these people would... They would join his cult in a moment.
It's a cult of personality for sure.
Yeah.
I would love to hear one of my followers explain me to people, be like, oh, she's stuttering because she's very excited about it. Oh, no, she's only crying because she stopped smoking and drinking.
She's more in touch with her feelings. Well, I think just like sex can be so freeing. And so like when I feel sexually free, it is a feeling unlike anything else I can get in my life. It's similar to being on stage, but it's more it's more universal.
What is that though? Have you ever had that moment during sex where you're like thinking about being on stage? Sometimes I think about being on stage and apple pie. Like, what's happening?
Well, it's like when I have a good set and when I have good sex, I want to do a lap around the block and just pound my chest. Because it's just, you feel excited to be alive.
It's
That's
nice.
What it is.
Yeah.
But I think religion also has this huge opportunity to make people feel excited to be alive. But I think fear, the human psyche is too susceptible to fear. Once you got fear in the mix, confusion sets in. And the second people are confused, you can control them.
Fear, I think, is a demon. I think it's an actual entity.
It's the biggest epidemic in our culture.
It parasites off of us.
Yeah.
I really do. And I'm fighting it. I'm sleeping in the dark for the first time by myself. Can you believe that?
Were you didn't like doing that before?
I was terrified because I have, we haven't never talked about it yet, but
I would love
I would have all kind of visitors.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that or do you want to put that in the deal?
I don't think I will.
Let's talk about that in private though.
I'll like mention it. I'll just say like I've always had sleep paralysis my whole life.
Which,
and I've always had experiences my whole life. And I think it also helps. Whatever is going on with me is why I'm a free thinker.
Yeah.
Like every time my mom has ever called me crazy, she's like, you were deprived of oxygen at birth, Calise. I think but I think about it and I go, what if I had a near-death experience and now
you're tuned
I
in.
can't be fooled by the bullshit except for fear and except for like fake love and love bombing. I can be fooled by these things because I'm so in need of connection and I feel so isolated, but I can't be fooled by just the company line.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because I watch a lot of near-death experience interviews on YouTube. There was a time where that was all I watched and I still watch them. But I'm really moved by almost everybody who's medically died and come back talking about how the feeling of love they felt was unlike anything they ever knew was possible and existed. And coming back to Earth is a very jarring experience. A lot of people who die and come back are super depressed because, and this is how I feel anyway, I don't think I've had an NDE, of like, what we're missing this opportunity to be kind to each other and actually have heaven on earth like that. It's totally possible, but we're not leaning into that because we're dicks. A lot of us are like mean and we're in fear.
Yeah,
it's a bummer. But like, it also speaks to your sensitivity too, because I know the second I met you, I'm like, I want to know you. I want to be like connected to you because your energy is so powerful and
I appreciate that because I definitely have the opposite effect on some.
Well, that's because it's people who are afraid to be free, I think. I watch people misunderstand Corinne for the last over a decade. And it's very interesting to me to observe like how her confidence makes them feel threatened by her existence.
I love what Corinne is because I feel like you're what I could have been if I had confidence, and I'm still working to fill it in. And that's why I follow you guys. That's why I accept your leadership.
Well, it's funny. I think people, sometimes see a confident person and think it's some kind of like a challenge. And I'm like, well, the only challenge, I'm not challenging you, against me. I'm challenging you to be the most confident version of you. Mm-hmm. I want that for everyone. I truly think the world would be a better place with less animosity if we were all walking around our most confident self. Because being confident is different from being pompous. That's fake. That's fabricated. Real confidence is quiet, as our good friend Amber Rose said. I mean,
she was right though about that one.
She was right about that.
Very right about that one.
Wrong about other things, but
it goes to show you, Corinne had a great upbringing in terms of her parents really nurtured her independent spirit, and whatever she was, they were like, be that. And it seems like you with your daughter, you did the same thing, and then watching her. I'm
so excited to see how she turns out.
Yeah, she seems so so comfortable going up to people, and as a little kid, you were describing I don't know, it was daycare or kindergarten, but she was super confident when all the other kids were clinging because you gave her a strong base, and that strong base is just love. Mm-hmm. It's just love,
and I think you have really good boundaries too. And I think that I think my kid has good boundaries. I've started to separate myself from others and be able to know what's for me and what's for them. It's been very hard for me.
Yeah.
I've always been a people pleaser. I've always been like, okay, if you're not feeling good, we're not feeling good, and let's figure out how to get there together.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that that's not for me anymore. Maybe I needed that, and maybe that was my service. Maybe that was important for me, but I don't want to do that anymore. I want to live my own life now.
Yeah.
I want to feel my own feelings now.
Yeah, it's great. And there's so many feelings.
What can we talk about your getting out of a long-term relationship?
Yes.
So you were together for
7 years? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so was there an impetus for the breakup? Was it one thing? Was it many things? Was it a feeling? Was it?
Okay. So with him, and obviously because he's a comedian, I don't want to overshare.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I love him to death, and we were friends for a very long time, but I haven't even talked to him for the last month. I had to even increase the boundary there because he was trying to inch his way back into telling me how to live my life. And but that's not his fault. That is how I entered into the relationship. I entered into the relationship seeking guidance and seeking so
the bond was
strong
forming.
Opinions.
It's like a cast iron mold started to form, and it's hard to if you find an independent side of yourself in a relationship. Oftentimes that partner's like, whoa. Who is this?
Right.
And you're like, it's me.
I think my spirit has always fought for independence and fought for having something to bounce it off of. But so the thing about us is this is what I've noticed about us. I think that he was a better version of my mother, and I was a better version of his father. That's my personal opinion. I don't know if he would agree with that.
Yeah.
And so as such, when we met, he was able to love me in such a better way that I got to see exactly what I was doing wrong, seeking a certain thing in a man. I was seeking my mother, and I was seeking her to be a little kinder and be a little more loving. And what happened is, as we both were that for each other, I was a lot older than him, but at the time that we met, I didn't feel that same way because that's almost. So I was 36 and he was 26, right? But then I hit 40s and I felt a lot older than him, but he also loved me into a maturity. He helped me grow.
Yeah.
But then once I hit a certain point of growth, I think he didn't recognize me anymore. And so that's when the incompatibility started to really rear its ugly head. And that's nothing against him. I think that he's an amazing person. I think that he has a lot of growth to do himself, and
absolutely, yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to be a little careful because obviously I'm trying not to be unfair.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Corinne was saying this last week when we were recording. I think that love isn't enough to keep a relationship going, and that's when I realized that myself in my life, I'm like, that's pretty heartbreaking, because you're like, well, why not? But people grow and change.
Yeah, and we were really close friends, and we did everything. We talked about everything. We filtered everything through each other.
Yeah.
And then there just became a point where, I started having independent thoughts, and that wasn't part of what our relationship was designed to be.
Yeah.
The relationship was designed to, it was, I wouldn't say designed, but it served as a crutch for me to become free.
Yeah, sure.
And then I became free, and the crutch was like, no, keep on using me. I was like, I don't need a crutch anymore. Like, grow with me, please.
Yeah.
Come with me on this journey. And he's not ready.
Yeah, it's tough I often see a lot of partners breaking up, especially long term, because they don't know how to grow with each other. That's tough.
Yeah, it's really
I imagine it feels
upsetting.
threatening, maybe too, to the other person. I'm not sure.
And I had a lot of abandonment issues, so it took a long time to get away, but I finally did, and I finally realized that all this stuff is just within me. All the stuff I need is inside me.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of songs that I listen to that I always wanted some man to feel that way towards me, and I just started, instead of yearning for certain guys, because there's this one guy that I always kind of yearn for. It's not even my ex. And I started realizing that the song, if I put myself in it, everything they're talking about is for me.
Yeah.
Like trying to get closer to me. Every song that's about getting closer to you or loving you. Sorry I left you. Sorry I didn't understand you. That's all me talking to myself.
Yeah.
It's all the stuff, the love and the attention that I needed myself to show me.
Yeah.
And so what is like the most important thing that you've learned in these 2 years of giving attention to yourself?
What is the most important thing I've learned in these 2
Or
years?
it could be any assortment of important things. I know like most is sometimes difficult.
Well, you start off with a lot of negative internal thoughts. They're very intrusive and they will argue you down, and you think that's your internal monologue. You think that's you, and it's not.
Yeah.
I have discovered that all those thoughts are everybody whose opinion and reality you accepted over yours. Every time you lost in life, those thoughts are in there trying to remind you, like, not to dress like this, not to wear that. It doesn't quite match. Your green shoelaces are too bright. You look too tired to be on camera. All those thoughts were barking at me because I was allowing those people in my life. I didn't have boundaries against those people in my life. So I couldn't have boundaries against those thoughts. As I started getting rid of people in my life who spoke to me this way, I also was able to start talking over my own thoughts. The first step I took was I speak out loud. Like, so the thoughts start saying horrible things like, you shouldn't have left your bag in your car. You deserve that your bag got stolen. And I go, no, I didn't know it was going to get stolen. I was in a rush. I speak out loud. So I used to run a show at the Village Lantern for 7-8 years. And my biggest production method was the mic has to be louder than drunk people's thoughts inside conversations.
You're right, yeah.
And so those intrusive thoughts are drunk people's thoughts. And so I talk out loud over them, and I don't let them win because I can't hear them if I'm talking.
Yes, talking back to your thoughts is the most effective, efficient way to rewire your brain, 100%. You have to talk back to them. Otherwise, the monologue's going to be the same. I feel like people don't realize there's a typewriter in your brain, and it is, while you are sleeping, while you're going about your day, it's just producing thoughts based off the agreements that you made as a young person. Like when someone told you weren't good enough, and it was someone like your parent, you go, I agree. That's my mom. Like, why would my mom steer me wrong? And like the undoing of that is...
And so that method evolved for me. So it started off me speaking, like arguing out loud to myself, no, and trying to be soothing and trying to be compassionate. And even like thinking, let me talk to myself the way I talk to my child when I'm being a good mom. And I was like, even trying to be motherly towards myself. And, I even had a moment where I pretended like my mom was a good mom. It didn't quite fit. It felt really good for a second.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh, no, let me just do it for myself. But it evolved into this other thing that I do now where I'll tell myself, Calise, you need to put your keys in this bowl. Ashley gave me this little monogrammed C bowl. Aww. And I go, Calise, you need to put your keys in this bowl or you're not going to be able to find them later. Yeah. So that's me in the present as my future self talking to my present self. And then the next morning, when my keys when I'm rushing out and I go, I forgot my keys. And I rush back up the stairs and I go, oh, there they are. I go, thank you, Calise. Yeah. For putting your keys on that little plate because you wouldn't have had it. Thank you so much. Yeah. And I'll thank myself for doing the dishes. Yeah. Like, Calise, you need to do the dishes or else they're not. And and so I talk to my future self. I talk to my past self, and that's great. Yeah, that's where I'm at now. And you know what's happened? I didn't know this was going to happen. I thought I was being crazy by talking out loud to myself in my bedroom. I always think somebody's listening. I always think somebody's watching and like gonna like judge me and like tell everybody. So I had to get over that one. Yeah. But what has happened is I don't have nearly as many intrusive thoughts now. Yeah.
Because they don't have a space, they don't have a place. Like those intrusive thoughts protected you at one point in your life. And then you're basically saying, hey, thanks for your service, but I don't need you anymore. I got this. I do that all the time with myself. And after a while of doing it, you really do get to these moments where you're like, save yourself from a future like kerfuffle. And you're like, Krystyna, goddamn, you crushed it. And I have those moments too. And they're very blissful.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's like a little special moment with yourself where I feel like hugging myself. And I've tried to do the thing. I don't like it so much. I'm still trying, where I think about me as a little girl. Yeah. I don't like it because it makes me so emotional. But I go, she was so mistreated. So I try to bring her with me in the night and let her see like what is fun and what's safe and what's, I do that too. What we're doing, what we're up to. You know what I mean? Like,
Inner child work's huge, like for psychological, for trauma and stuff. I've had moments with myself, by myself, where I'm imagining like my 5-year-old me in front of me, and I cry thinking about it. It's very powerful.
Yeah. Well, she was so neglected and so misunderstood that I go, okay, come with me now. You're safe now. Come be on stage.
Yeah. Shine.
And it's fun now.
Yeah.
You guys should have a podcast together where you cry about everything. Cry gals.
Cryotherapy.
Different big girls do cry.
Yeah. Oh boy, do we.
Well, I mean, talking about childhood, it's interesting because I was thinking, I was at a caucus this weekend, which is literally just a really annoying word for a meeting, a conference, a convention.
They name it caucus.
Yeah, so obnoxious. And talking to so many people involved in politics, and the thought that kept running through my head is, I can't imagine any of these people as a child. And it made me so sad. When I am having a conversation with someone and I get no sense of what they might have been like as a kid, I feel sad for them, because I go, where did that go? You know, you're here, you're talking about like, I don't know, trying to trade this for this to get ahead in this way. And there's no joy or creativity in it. And that's new. That's a new feeling in this industry, because I certainly, for the most part, could feel that with anyone in comedy.
Yeah.
Anyone, you go, okay, well, even if they're fucked up now, I still was able to get a sense of what they might have been like as a child.
Mm-hmm. It's like they've strayed from their humanity in a way, which is interesting, because politics is all about humanity and making your human experience
that's
better.
What they would have you. I would say after 2.5 weeks, I would say that's not at all what politics is about. In theory, it's what, you know.
Right.
I would say perhaps it's what government is about, governing is about. Politics is something completely different.
Yeah, a lot of control.
Yeah, I feel like they've created these characters that they are comfortable being, and that's why it doesn't feel like a person there. You know?
Yeah, because that's the thing, and it's not just, this is just the space I'm in now, but I think about that all the time. And I'm not like, you know, I'm adult in a lot of ways. Although if you knew me as a kid, I was always like this. So it's actually just me being, I was like an adult child. You know, it's just big sister syndrome. But I just wonder where that is in any space when you're talking to an adult. And I just feel sad for people who, when you're speaking to them, you go, where was the kid? Was the kid ever there? What did the kid want to do? I doubt the kid wanted to be here making deals.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like people, you know, when you experiment with identity when you're growing up and you're coming into yourself, and regardless of if you're lost or you know who you are, you like,
Am I
you know,
a hot topic now?
Well, exactly. I was just gonna say, I remember the first time I ever put on a leather jacket. I was 14, and I'm like, I want to be this girl today. I want to wear a leather jacket and act like I have tattoos. I remember the candy cigarettes. Fucking love that. Like, what does it feel like to smell like? And I love
candy cigarettes were empowering. I don't care what anyone says.
So empowering.
I don't care what anyone says.
I felt like such a badass.
I don't think they were bad. Ear. Bring them back. Now.
I mean, yeah, I love the candy cigarettes.
It didn't make me want to smoke. It made me want to smoke candy cigarettes.
Yeah,
I would still like to smoke candy
delicious.
cigarettes. Yeah, they were great.
But like putting on like a mask and like just trying it out. But it's like playing dress up. But I feel like adults, they have this idea of the mask that they want to wear, i.e. I want to get into politics because of whatever reason, because I watch the news a lot or I watch Veep on HBO or whatever. But they're so like, that's why I want, one of my tattoos I want to get is this is supposed to be fun as a reminder of like, stop taking this shit so seriously. You can want to do good things for people and want real change and have fun doing it by keeping your humanity beside you the whole time. Like people lose that. I mean, yeah, that is very sad. And I imagine comedy is, I never thought about that. Comedy is a place where we get to be like fantastic. Like Dave Attell, like his jokes are like, they're fantastical. They're very childlike. They're very wondrous. And I think,
well, yeah, because I think the people say about comedians, you know, like you never grow up, and like sure, yes, there is that is a criticism that I think some of us could take to heart. Mostly the
men with Peter Pan syndrome,
mostly the male comedians.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eric, but I also think that's like, oh, why is that a criticism? Like,
yeah,
you can be responsible without leaving your childlike wonder behind.
Yeah, absolutely. So this has been a great conversation. Talk to us about the show.
Oh,
you have a show.
Yes.
That's very exciting. What's the when is it? Where is it? What time?
Okay.
How do we get tickets?
February 27th. February 27th, 9:15, New York Comedy Club, Upper West Side, 78th and Broadway. It's called Calise, what is it called? Calise's Comedy and Burlesque Blast. Yes.
Amazing.
And the purpose of it is for me to unveil and for me to be brave. I'm always trying to push myself to be brave. And you know what I decided to do? I actually got inspired by Nico because we did Alex English's Night of 100 or 1,000 Negroes at Second City. And Nico went first. And I was like, wow, what made you go first? That would be so scary and intimidating for me. And he said, well, it's going to be a lot of perspective, and I want mine to be one of the first ones that people hear.
I love him.
Then I had to follow him last night, right?
Yeah.
At New York Comedy Club, and he had the crowd clapping.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. The crowd was going crazy. I had to change my set to the 100 Negro set.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I got to bring some noise or else they're not going to want to even hear me. They're going to be thinking about him still.
Yeah.
So I changed my set around because of Nico, because he was hard to follow for me. And I was like, okay, he's inspiring me. What I'm going to do for my birthday show is I'm going to go first. I'm going to be the entrance. I'm going to do my burlesque dance. I'm going to do my first, 10 or 15 minutes of comedy. And then I get to watch my show. This is my life.
Yeah.
I do comedy all the time. I know how to headline a show. I know how to be the last person.
Yeah.
This is the night where I get to relax and I don't have to build up all this tension inside. And I get to watch my friends perform and honor me to do the show in the first place.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's what I decided to do. It's just like go first and not sit there outside worried about being a professional comedian all night.
And enjoy, you book the show, you book comics you want to see that you respect and then get to enjoy their set.
Yeah, I'm finally breaking out of those boundaries. Like when I was in a relationship, there's curfew, there's like check in with me, there's like you're out, and it's not against him. Every ex.
Yeah.
Like you have all these restraints. Even with my kid, obviously with my kid, but now that she's 18, I'm breaking back out of that where I never had a clock. I always went with who's entertaining me right now, who's filling me up right now, what is this, where am I vibing?
Yeah.
And then I'll go home, go to sleep. I don't get tired until I'm bored. I never had a clock. And so I want to open that freedom I had before and just feel that boundlessness I had before. And that's what I'm going to try to do at my show. I don't want to get up there and give this best performance of my life. This isn't my comeback.
Yeah.
This is my night. This is my birthday. This is coupling my birthday with a show is like, it's already kind of pathetic, but
I love it. I want to do a show for my birthday's coming up. And I'm like, I want to do a show and I want to get Democrat signatures for Corinne.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. But you just do something that you want that excites you.
It's exciting. It's exciting. Like you said, it's like sex. It's like I'm going to be on stage and whoever wants to come see me half naked, it's like, we're going to be having a little bit of sex together.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go to after party is around the corner. I won't invite people on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'll tell the people I want to come.
Keep that to your people.
But I just want that freedom. I want to be able to drop some acid after my set and watch my friends go on stage.
Great.
That's so beautiful, Calise. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see your show. February 22nd at Upper West Side, New York.
27th.
27th. Sorry, 27th. Yeah, I'm putting that in my
What day of the week is that?
On the 28th at midnight, when it hits midnight, I'm 45 years old. And I'm starting my second life.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Well, thank you. And then where else can we find you online? Like, what's your handle? How do we get tickets for this show? Like, we go on Instagram?
Go to NewYorkComedyClub.com or you can go to at Calise Hawkins on Instagram. That's Calise Hawkins. And my link is in the bio.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, you guys. Thank you so much.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Excited. This has been Guys We Fuck, the anti-slut shaming podcast. We'll talk to you next Friday.